So we now have Matt Burns from TechCrunch, one of our senior editors, Anne Cairns from MasterCard, and Taavet Hinrikus from Transferwise, a noted European unicorn. And they're going to be talking about something very close to everyone's heart, I think, the future of money. Over to you, Matt.
Well, hello, everyone. And this is a fascinating combo, and I'm glad you guys are here. Taavet, I mean, you're from Transferwise. You're this 5-year-old unicorn that's grown up to be a unicorn that specializes in transferring money. And you're the president of international markets of MasterCard. And you guys have been around for 50 years. 50 years. Yeah. So it's quite the combo that we have going on here. But Taavet, I got to ask you, why are you here at Davos? Isn't this where the old and the tired go to talk about guys like you?
Well, there are 57 heads of state here, and obviously I'm here to convince them to use Transferwise. So, think about Greek, for example, all the money they get in aid from IMF, they could save 5% by using Transferwise for that.
Who have you talked to so far here?
No, it's actually it's a fantastic place for considering all the people that are here. So, lots of interesting meetings with people from banking sector, good media opportunities, catching up with old friends and making new friends.
Yeah, great. Well, we're glad you're here. And Anne, thanks for coming. Really do appreciate it. So you're the president of international markets. What exactly from MasterCard is underneath your purview?
Everything outside North America. North America is the US and Canada. So international markets is over 200 countries, the rest of the world, and it's about 61% of MasterCard's revenue.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, that's great. But what country or region are you most excited about right now?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's massive growth all over the world because 85% of payments, consumer payments, are still done in cash. So I'm pretty excited about all of the markets that I manage. I mean, some are obviously growing pretty rapidly. You see massive expansion across Africa, Southeast Asia, and so on. But still, you're seeing good double-digit growth across Europe. Even during the sovereign debt crisis, we saw that. Because you've got massive secular shift of cash to electronic, there's a lot of place for everybody to play here. Yeah,
that's great. Now, same really to Taavet there. Where you guys have had a fantastic year. This last 2015 was great for you. Where was the biggest area of growth?
So 2015 for us was really a year of going from a European startup into a global business. Beginning of the year, we were live in Europe. During last year, we launched in US, we launched in Australia. So it's becoming a rapidly growing 24/7 operation. Both US and Australia have been actually amazing. The US is a huge market for us, the single biggest market, as we all know, and can't afford not to be there. So we have a team of 50 people on the ground, and that's going strong. Australia is kind of opposite. We have nobody on the ground, but that market is growing like gangbusters.
Yeah, that's great. So the reason we have you here is to talk about the future of money and the future of credit. People need access to banking. They need access to the tools. What does Transferwise or MasterCard, how do they improve the accessibility of these things?
Well, if you think about right now, we've got 2 billion people in the world who are financially excluded. That means they don't have any access to financial services or any way of moving money around.
Sure.
And we actually have a number of projects to reach the next 500 million excluded people. Many of those are women, by the way. And so what we're doing is we're working with governments all over the world to basically identify them as funding sources. Most governments give their citizens benefit payments and things like this. And we're working with them to make them fully electronic and also to give people identities, digital identities, which are based on biometric measures. Could be fingerprints, could be iris, could be a voice, could be your ECG, but we're tying those to a chip on a card, which can obviously go in a telephone as well, and rolling out projects that cover entire big countries. So, we're building an ecosystem across Egypt right now, 90 million Egyptians. It'll touch everyone in the country.
Now, real quick before we get to you, women, is MasterCard doing something specific for that massive market?
Yeah, I mean, look, 80% of buying decisions around the world are actually made by women. So women are our consumer market. So many of the products that we design in the traditional world are designed for women. But, we see the whole digital identity part being really crucial to women. You're not just a mother, you're not just somebody's sister, somebody's daughter. Maybe you're in a country you don't have a passport, a driver's license, maybe you don't even have a mobile phone. But if, we can include you in the financial system and give you a biometric identity, that's a huge change.
Sure. Now, Taavet, can you give an example of how you're allowing the consumer to have access to funds?
Sure. So at Transferwise, it was an S. So we don't have the luxury, as was previously described, about thinking about taking a whole new continent and starting to build up things there. So we really need to be super focused. So we've defined our mission kind of very narrowly to allow people to get access to the best way to move money from one country to another. And so, we're super focused on that and making sure that we give them the best tools to do it, and to do it in a way that is 10 times better compared to the banks. Cheaper, faster, and much more transparent and easy to use.
Can you tell me about the mechanics involved in doing this? How do you transfer money at such a low cost?
Why should money transfer cost an arm and a leg like banks have been charging? We're just moving bits and electrons from one account to another. So I kind of, I'm confused by the whole notion of Western Union or other people charging 10% for something which is inherently as simple as sending an email. So I think the whole question should be reversed to how little does it cost to move money around. And so the reason and the way we do it is pretty simple. We're using modern technology. We don't have a branch network to support. We're focused on transparency, so we make the exchange at a mid-market rate, and we very clearly tell you how much we charge. And it seems that people love it. So, we've grown to 5% market share in the UK. I don't think there's another financial service which has grown to 5% in the kind of past years in any given market.
Right, great. Now, switching back to MasterCard, your transaction system is based on a decades-old model. Mm-hmm. It's been around forever. Mm-hmm. How long do you expect it to still be in the market?
A long time, because what we're basically doing is, first of all, look, we do 2 new releases of our core system every year. Mm-hmm. And when we actually do those upgrades, they upgrade across over 200 countries. That's not simple to flick that switch and do that.
I'm sure it's not.
Right? I mean, anybody out here who's in a technology company can really understand that. So what we're basically doing is we're looking at what happens in the physical world, and we're saying you need tokens to move things around in a secure way in the physical world. And we've created the digital platform to do that now. It's digital tokenization. It sits behind things like Apple Pay. So it's already there to move, fully into that world. And it's just going to be a question of how fast everyone's going to adopt and switch on now.
So you talked a little bit about Apple Pay there. Where does Apple Pay or other peer-to-peer payment system fit into MasterCard's overall goals?
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big world out there. We work with all of the tech giants. We work with most of the world's telcos, and we work with startups and very successfully growing companies because that's what it takes to build a whole ecosystem and infrastructure. And, so they fit in as part of partnership, public-private partnerships that we build all over the world. And by the way, governments are very, very important in that. We work with 51 governments in the world now because governments are a funding source to reach people. If you want to have money in your mobile phone to be able to send it from the US to, the Philippines or something, the money's got to get in there in the first place. And so you've got to think about what's the funding source. Often to get poor people to put money inside their phone to move somewhere else, that's quite a big step. It's not that it's technologically difficult. That's the simple part. It's the actual user acceptance of being able to do that and not be able to feel the cash. To feel that their money's going to safely get from A to B without seeing it. It's a huge shift in human behavior.
Do you see something similar at Transferwise? Is there any sort of consumer blockade almost to, if you go from Western Union, you're sending cash, or with you, you're sending bits, like you said, over your phone. Do you have to educate the consumer? Do you have to do anything different?
I think that kind of education piece is well underway, and overall people are learning to trust the internet for things. We've given lots of our data to Google and Facebook, totally voluntarily, and I think if we then start thinking about finance and money, then people were hesitant to use their credit cards online 10, 15 years ago. They've become used with that. People got severely disappointed in the whole banking system with the financial crisis in 2008, and I think after that they're willing to trust startups who are only operating online quite a bit with money. When we launched Transferwise, we didn't have any expectation at that point. We just put the site live and actually had your colleague Steve from TechCrunch write an article about it. And then we were pretty amazed what happened next. 15 minutes later, the first guy sent us £2,000. It was a website built by two people from Estonia, which just appeared on the internet, and people gave us money. So it was pretty exciting to see that they're willing to do it. And now we are seeing transactions in millions regularly. So people are willing to trust the internet quite a bit. So I don't think that's a barrier anymore. But overall, obviously, still continuing to make sure your company is reputable and trusted is an important part for me and for her, and for any business that deals with money.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, let's switch gears a little bit to one of my favorite topics, Bitcoins.
Oh.
Yes, great. Do you guys see a future where financial companies could use Bitcoins or the blockchain to transfer money or process payments?
I absolutely see a future for blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin is just something that uses blockchain, and I don't think the current construct of Bitcoin is particularly has longevity. It behaves more like a commodity than a currency to start with, and it's very slow. I mean, you read a lot of stuff in the press, but right now it takes about 10 minutes to do a transaction. I mean, imagine. You're waiting for a train, you want to just go through the barrier and tap your card, or you want to wait 10 minutes for your Bitcoin. Plus, the other thing that's a problem is, of course, the Silk Road and all of the way that you can use, exactly, the money.
So where could blockchain fit into MasterCard?
We're looking at blockchain right now in all sorts of different ways in our labs, because we think blockchain is basically a value transfer system. It's pretty neat. Actually, and there's nothing wrong with using new algorithms to actually move money. We think that's a great thing. It's just how you actually manifest it and make it work, along with the way that you have to handle all the world's regulations and so on to make it effective and safe and fast.
Yes, great. So with money transfer, there's a few new startups that are doing what Transferwise does, or Transferwise, but they're a whole lot cheaper. The blockchain allows the companies to transfer money for nearly nothing. Are you guys worried about that, or are you going to implement that?
I think that's super exciting, and in a world where we all had a Bitcoin wallet on our phone, that actually might work. But how do we go from a world where nobody has a Bitcoin wallet to a world where everyone has a Bitcoin wallet? That's a question that I haven't been able to figure out. So if you think about it today, getting money into Bitcoin is a pain in the ass. Getting money out of Bitcoin is similarly a huge pain. You end up paying typically 0.5%, 1% on both ends.
Sure.
It's a process which takes multiple days. So, I think Bitcoin, I'm kind of sorry to say it, but it seems to me that experiment is becoming dead pretty quickly. And also, if you look at Bitcoin, it seems to me that a lot of what's been driving Bitcoin has been greed, kind of similarly to a lot of stuff that's been driving the banking system. People bought Bitcoin because they thought Bitcoin is going to be worth more tomorrow. That's kind of similar to what people do in banks on a daily basis. So I don't know. I'm kind of don't have that much hope for Bitcoin anymore. But with blockchain, I think that's much more exciting. I was actually thinking about, could we see a world where blockchain would disrupt MasterCard?
Well, I mean, actually, why wouldn't MasterCard just adopt blockchain?
You should.
Yeah, that's why we're looking at it. I mean, you've got to be
Davos
open
right there for you.
You've got to be open to new technology.
Right, sure. So, I mean, what's going to happen when it's quicker to pay for something with a blockchain than swiping a MasterCard?
Doesn't make any difference to us in the sense of if we've incorporated it into part of the way that we move money in terms of our network, the actual swiping or tapping or sending a message over a phone or a computer, it's just a form factor.
Sure.
That doesn't matter. It's the interconnectivity that matters and the safety and security, a la your previous speaker, about how that interconnectivity works. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things to think about in terms of that when you're moving trillions every minute.
It's just a little bit of money. So anyway, I think let's get back to the yin yang here. How many employees do you have?
So we have 450 people, up from about 42 years ago.
That's an amazing growth. And how many people are on MasterCard?
We've got about 12,000 people, up from about 5,000 4 years ago.
So that's good growth.
Actually, we're not a big company. If you compare us to a big bank, we're about a 15th of the size of most major banks. We look more like Facebook than we look like a bank.
Why is that?
Because we built a super efficient technical infrastructure, and most of our costs are technology and marketing, they're not people.
Okay.
We don't do a people-intensive business. We're a B2B business. We're not a consumer business. We don't, deal directly with the billions of consumers that use our products.
Now, both of you guys are based in London, as we were talking way back there beforehand. Are you guys competing for the same talent, and how do you retain? How does somebody want to go work for a startup or for an established company?
That's an interesting question.
If I look at the people we've hired, I think there are very few, probably close to zero people that have come from the banking system. And sorry for putting MasterCard in the same bucket, but we can say Canary Wharf as a geographical distinction.
You totally can, yes.
I don't think there are many people at Transferwise who come from there. I think I think actually we do compete for the same talent, but we also don't, because I think people make a conscious choice a little bit in terms of like whether it's a security or the benefits or the pace, and different people are actually suited better for different companies. I'm actually also very sure that there are teams inside MasterCard who are operating very much like a startup, and probably these teams might be more competitive to us, but I think that selection probably takes care of itself.
Well, I mean, we actually buy startups, so we have quite a few people in MasterCard who started their own companies and are now working for us. We also incubate.
We're not
we
selling,
incubate startups. No, well.
We're not selling.
But maybe one day, if you want to, you would love to have a big technology company to look and say, yeah, you're worth a lot of money. But the thing is, we incubate companies, and we don't necessarily own them. We actually have places in our labs where if you're a startup and you want some help from a bigger firm, we also have big open APIs where people all over the world can actually build things just riding our rails.
Now, and if you're talking to a startup founder, what specifically are you looking for to purchase? Or what type of traits or what type of companies are you looking for?
Well, I mean, obviously, we are actually looking for people that are playing in this space, that are moving money around the world. We're looking for companies that have got great ideas on how to give rewards out to the the consumer population. Rewards are something that people love to get when they're buying things. You don't want to be walking into a shop with 10 different little pieces of paper, reward cards. So those are businesses that we bought recently, a big rewards business in Australia called Pinpoint. We're looking for processing companies. We've bought one recently in Turkey called Provus. Yeah, we buy a whole range of things. And obviously we buy or we invest in things like authentication companies. We've invested in a company, Nimi, that does the wristband that measures your ECG to authenticate you. Yeah, tons of things. It's actually fun. I love seeing all the great ideas out there and how everything's progressing.
But there's no deal to be made here right now?
Sorry, we're still not selling. As long as you're headquartered in Canary Wharf, not selling.
That's great. I think we're going to end with that. So thank you very much. I do appreciate your time.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great facilitator.